The mills got the names by the people who were there longest, actually. Starting at the end of the fleet, which is right up in Halvergate, the first two mills you came to was one we used to call Kerrison's Mills, that was just near the captain. And the other one I think was known later as Carter's Mill, which was, as I knew it, was Wesley Stone. He's the one he used to see after both their mills. Then a little further down Halvergate Fleet Dyke was a nice big mill, a proud, I always just call it a proud mill when the sails had gone when it was going round. That was what my Uncle Fred Mutton's mill that was. He used to see after that one. And then we'd come down to the one we see after. Just beyond ours was the next one, which we used to call Ben Howard's mill. I think that's being repaired, I think, now. And just a little further down, and there was another cutting, and that's up there to the right. There's a chap called Jimmy Goffin used to see after that he retired, and then a Fred Hewitt took it. But I think that mill has been taken down completely, so there's no signs of that being there. And I suppose that's how they come. And I mean, all right, I said I went to Parter. My brother had been there 21 years. That was known as High's Mill then, because another High went in, and that still continued. That still is High's Mill, actually, still known as High's Mill on the whatever you look at. Well, it was a completely different one than all the other five. There were 6 mills pumping into the Halvergate Fleet Dyke. The other ones were what we call patent mills, which were, you'd set them off and you'd adjust the weight up with the wind, hook a weight on a chain and operate the vanes, and you'd walk away and leave it for the rest of the day, providing you've got enough grease and things like that, you know. But this one, completely different. First of all, it was not very tall. The sails almost touched the ground, and to get it to operate, there was canvas sails, and you'd have to unwind those and spread it out according to the wind, and spread the sails out. And you'd put the sails on that one, and you'd let that one go to the top, and another one, and so on. To get it into wind, the tailpiece down at the bottom, at the back, shall I say at the back, there was a big hole in there, and there was what you call it, a reel, what we used to pull out, and on that was a chain, and all around the mill were posts in the ground, only about a foot high, and whichever way the wind blew, you'd have to adjust it by putting that chain on that post, and then you'd have to crank this on the chain, and all the whole cap would swing round into the wind. That's how we used to wind it. We used to go to bed and leave it. That's something you couldn't leave. You sometimes got a very, very good regular wind night time, just a nice breeze, and I decided to let it go. I mean, in latter years, Dad did. I used to see after it, like before I took over, actually. And yeah, we used to hear a little noise, the sails going past the cap, so squeak, squawk, squeak, squawk. And standing in the house, you could know how fast the mill was going. And that's how we did. But what I remember about the mill, what I remember about the wind, was you'd set it off in the mornings, and up till about midday, 1 o'clock, the wind would increase. You know, so you couldn't be far away. You'd have to adjust and wind the cloths up a bit, take it off. And then you got in the afternoon, about 1 o'clock time, it start to decrease, because you have to go back and put a bit more cloth on. And then sometimes you'd see it, wonder why that's not going so good as it used to be. You'd go up and look, and perhaps the wind had changed a bit. So you had to adjust that for the usual manner. That was if you wanted to stay there all night in the mill to keep you warm. Just believe you me, it's drafty in a mill, with no heat. And always used to mill every night, use it every night. That depended on the rain, the weather. If the water was down in the dikes, well, you wouldn't bother setting up all night mill, seeing after the windmill. So we didn't have nothing, because we never used to stop there. What I did used to do when I was a lad, you'll see in Dad's book, where we used to cart cake out to the cattle on the marshes, and they used to, the people, when it was summertime, they deliver it down there, I suppose by horse and cart, and that was what you called cotton cake. You never see it nowadays. That came in slabs about 2 foot long and about a foot wide. You have to break all that up before you give it to the cattle, because they would come in Hessian bags. Well, you see, after you took about 3 or 4 ton of that out, there'd be a lot of Hessian bags there. So what I used to do, I used to put some of them together and hang them up, and I used to have a little punch bag of that. I used to pass my time away at that. That was only when I was a lad, really, If she ran a long while, there was the neck of from the sails right through, the neck, that used to be a brass place, what they used to run in. If you didn't get that grease, sometimes that would get almost very hot. So I'd have to get up in the mill and I'd grease right round and get the old grease going. And then she'd go a bit faster then. Oh, we got that from Yarmouth, slaughterhouse. That was horse grease. You buy a canful for about 6 shillings. It'd be about, what you call it now, about 5 gallons worth. But that would be solid. You just kept enough of it by you so you didn't run out. That was it. You'd get it when you were down at Yarmouth, getting your groceries or whatever.